Now, let me welcome in our presenting sponsor and keynote speaker, Ric Campo. Ric is chairman of the Port of Houston Authority. He was appointed to that position in January of 2019. Ric is chairman of the board and CEO at Camden Property. He was also past chairman of the Houston Super Bowl host committee, responsible for Super Bowl 51 festivities and logistics. I've had the privilege of working with Ric in DC, working on the Ship Channel Widening Project, and I can tell you he is an outstanding advocate and leader for the Port of Houston. He represents this industry well. He knows it well. Ric, I'm glad to see you here. It's really good to have you in. I know you've got a great presentation for us today. So at this time, I'll turn it over to you and let you have the floor.
Thanks, Chad. I really appreciate it. And we need to get rid of that picture of me on the screen. It's pretty awful. But I'm sad that I'm not with you guys today. I mean, this is such a great conference and such a great group of people to be in front of. So I know we're doing it virtually, and we all have to adapt in the current environment. And this is all good. So I really appreciate the opportunity today. So what I'm going to do is just go through some real interesting stats on the port and give you a sense of where we are in a few of our sort of major initiatives. And so I'll just get right to it. So when you think about, let's see if we can get this to actually work. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to get right to it. So when you think about the Houston Ship Channel, and I'm going to talk about the Port Authority and our relationship to the channel at this point, but the Houston Ship Channel is all about jobs. I mean, when you think about the industry that we have in Houston, I mean, the port is the sort of third leg of the stool, right? Energy is one, both upstream and downstream, and the medical center is another, and the port's the other. And the port is a massive job generator. It's all about improving the quality of life of Houstonians. It starts with, when you think about quality of life, it starts with a job. I mean, if you don't have a job, you have a pretty hard, road towards a high quality job, high quality life. So the port produces 1.35 million jobs in Texas, 3.2 million nationally, $339 billion economic impact. That's 20% of the Texas GDP goes through the Port of Houston. So it's just a massive generator of economic activity, and economic activity is all about jobs, right? Then when you kind of look at it from a national perspective, it's $800 billion to the U.S. productivity. When you think about the port, so as the chairman of the Port Authority, I stand on the shoulder of giants, and all of our team at the port, when you think about everything that's going on there, we definitely all stand on the shoulders of giants, because the port started in, really, if you go way, way back in the 1800s, but the official deep water opening was in 1914, and the channel was 25 feet deep and 150 feet wide. And so most people don't realize that Galveston Bay is only 68 feet deep. So in order to get ships through and transit and create the value that the port has been able to create, you had to dig this channel. And for Houston to be a port city, even though it's 52 miles from the Gulf, it was amazing when you think about just the energy and the chutzpah, or whatever you want to call it, that people had in the early 1900s that we benefit from today. And so we have to, I think about this as our foundation of prosperity, because the foundation needs to be continually updated and improved to adapt to a new environment like we're doing today in the COVID environment. When you think about this, I love this saying, it's no channel, no port, no cargo, no cargo, no commerce, no commerce, no jobs. So whenever we're talking about the port, it is about jobs, it's about prosperity, it's about making sure that we are good stewards of the channel and stewards of the jobs around that channel. When you think about Houston and how we rank, and I think it's really important to look at these numbers. So we're #1 in foreign waterborne tonnage. And by the way, we've been #1 for 25 years. This is not new. This has been going on for a long time. We're the #1 export state. Houston's the #1 export region. And when you think about our port relative to other ports, we have a 50% faster growth rate in waterborne tonnage than any other port in America. So, I mean, we're talking about big time growth and big time importance to the region. Other sort of big numbers I think are really interesting would be we're number one in steel, even though steel is way down this year because of energy. We're still number one in steel. We handle nearly 70% of the containers in the U.S. In the Gulf of Mexico. And when you think about the channel itself, 8,300 vessels come through. When they do the round trips and transits, that's over 20,000 vessel movements that the Houston pilots handle every year, including 200,000 barges. So when you think about our channel, it is the busiest U.S. waterway by far. If you take the combination of the three largest ports in America, which would be New York, New Jersey, and LA and Long Beach, our transits, when you add them together, you don't get up to the number of transits that we have. So we are busy, and that's one of the, I think, the key parts of our equation long term is we have to expand the waterway, and we'll talk about that here a little bit in a few minutes.
Rick, I'm going to jump in here real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but if you can, do you have a slideshow that you can share? Or
we're supposed to be sharing.
See if you can share that right now.
Okay.
Maybe click on it one more time.
Okay. It's supposed
I know you were talking about some great numbers. And
yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for interrupting. I thought we were sharing. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to figure this out soon. I've done a lot of these and have not had an issue. So let's see here. I'm going through this PowerPoint. You guys aren't even seeing it.
Yeah, but we were writing down the numbers as you were saying them.
Sorry about that. Let me see here. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to maximize the. Usually Zoom is pretty effective, but
it should pop it up if you'll share it.
Well, yeah. Let me see. I may have to do something wacky here.
No worries. No worries.
No, that's okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, this is the real world.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to adapt. Usually I have technology people help me, but that's not happening now, right? Okay, I didn't need to show. Let me get back to Zoom. Okay. I don't know why I'm having trouble with Zoom. It's not bringing up my Zoom. Okay. Okay, don't want to leave the meeting. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I've got now Zoom coming up.
And then
let's see here. Share screen.
There you go.
Okay, now I got it now. Okay,
bingo.
See it now?
Bingo. There you go.
Bingo.
Good to go.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start this over so you can see actually the numbers.
Excellent.
See that now?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks so much.
You should have stopped me earlier. Stop me going. I get so energized by what's going on at the port. All right, so you can see these numbers. I don't have to read the numbers again. It's obviously, the port is just a massive economic generator, and we all as part of the industry have to support that aspect of it for sure. I already talked about that one. Hey, you've heard about my the great saying, no port, no jobs. Here are some of the sort of showing you the number one in lots of things. And I think this is where I was kind of here, I think, talking about the 70% or 69% of the containers in the U.S. Gulf Coast come through the port, massive busy waterway. I think this is where I was, I think, Andy, where I was before we had our technical issue. So when you think about energy capital of the world, I mean, it really is. I mean, the Houston Ship Channel is home to the largest petrochemical complex in America, and it would be the second largest petrochemical complex in the world. There's been probably over 50 billion of recent investments by the private sector to expand the petrochemical business. I know you heard from Jim Teague this morning, and Jim Teague called the port a beautiful body of water, and I would agree with him on that. And Enterprise Products, obviously one of the major exporters and major players in the port. There are over 200 private terminals in the port, and I'm going to talk about how the Port Houston Authority relates to this here in a minute, but when you think about our energy petrochemical business, we have the largest pipeline and storage in the U.S. When you have 500 million barrels of liquid storage around the Houston Ship Channel, that's not just storage, that's a marketplace. And this is where people in the world come to market oil and gas products. 69% of all the cargo out of the ship channel is liquid bulk, which is pretty interesting. When you look at some of these graphs here, I'm going to show you, and by the way, we can get you these slides later. Chad, I'm sure we're happy to share these with you. But you look at all these slides, no matter whether it's container volume or crude exports or propane or polyethylene products, it's just straight up and to the right. Now, obviously, when you look at 2020, you see some downward trends, and those are all COVID related. Those are clearly temporary, and ultimately the world will need these products, and once we get past COVID, we'll be in really good shape, longer term. When you look at, I'll talk a little bit about the port, because I think a lot of people get confused about Port Houston. They think Port Houston controls ingress, egress, and controls everything about the port. Well, that's just not true. Port Houston does two things. We manage the 8 public terminals, which include the 2 container terminals, and operate the land around those terminals. In terms of, I mentioned that there's 200 additional terminals that are private terminals run by private businesses, and we do not operate those terminals, and we don't regulate those terminals. The waterway is a federal-owned waterway, so the Coast Guard is actually the body that regulates and monitors the channel. So if there's a storm or there's any issue going on in the channel, it's the Coast Guard responsibility to deal with those issues, not Port Houston. Even though people call us and ask about what's going on and we give them information, we are not the body that actually regulates the channel. The other federal agency that regulates the channel is the Corps of Engineers. Any kind of dredging or any other sort of activity in the channel that requires any construction, the Corps issues permit, and the Corps controls that. So we are when you think about the port's position as the operator of the 8 public terminals, we also are the non-federal sponsor of the channel, which means that we partner with the Corps of Engineers to deal with all the sort of issues around the channel, whether it's deepening and widening or dredging or some of the other issues that have to go on with the channel. So that's what Port Houston does, and I think it's really important to draw that distinction between what we do and what the rest of the channel people do. We'll talk about Port Houston and those 2 terminals, right? The Barbers Cut and Bayport. We're number 1 in containers in the U.S. and we're the fastest growing of the top 10 entities or top 10 ports. So obviously, the containers, we're talking about 20, they call them TEUs, which are 20-foot equivalent units. And that's what lots of stuff comes in when you think of what's going on with containers. Just to give you a sense, a lot of people ask us, so what's in the containers and what goes out of the containers when we talk about imports and exports? This is kind of an interesting slide because it shows, hardware and construction materials are the number 1, then it's machinery, appliances, retail goods, clothes, furniture, food and drink is high on the list. So that's what's coming in to support our region, our growing region. What's going out are a lot of products. We talked about how we're the number 1 export market in America. If you look at resins and plastics, 60% of all resin in America exits through Houston. So when you think about products that use plastics and resins, I mean, if it doesn't go out of Houston, it doesn't get made. And so I think it's really interesting when you look at these numbers to see sort of what comes in and goes out of our operations. And a lot of people ask also, where are they going? Where are they going? Where are they coming from? And so when you look at those numbers, it's pretty diversified, and that's really good for our market long term because we're bringing products in from and sending products out to a pretty diverse area, and I think that's really important for long-term stability of the port and for Houston overall. one of the things I think is really critical that we focus on in a major way is our relationship to the community. So we believe that we are partners with the community. We make sure that our neighbors, that we're dealing with our neighbors in the right way. We're focused on improving environmental and improving public facilities around in and around the port. Just to give you an example, when we built Bayport, we talked with the community. We built mitigating berms and natural stormwater filtration, and it's really important to recognize that the port is not just about business and moving cargo. It's about creating jobs, but also making sure the communities in and around the port are doing well as well. And so we have just expanded and brought back the Community Advisory Council, where we have community leaders that meet with the Port Commission officials and the port staff on an ongoing basis to address issues in the community. And I know there was a panel earlier on transportation issues where Commissioner Garcia was on that. And it's really important to think about how we impact the community and how we can make positive improvements in those relationships with community members. Environmental issues are huge for the port. I mean, we have been and will continue to be a leader in environmental stewardship. We think it's one of the key strategies of the port. We were the first port to be certified at ISO 14001 in 2002, and it relates to how we manage the activities of the port. We were first to install LED lightings. We're the first port this year to operate with 100% renewable energy and electricity in our container terminals. We're piloting electric vehicles, and so we're trying to be a good environmental steward, and we're definitely, I think, a cutting edge port in that regard, and we're going to continue to focus on those key issues to make sure that from an environmental perspective we are improving the community that we live in. When you think about, let's talk a little bit about COVID. First of all, I want to just give a shout out to our port employees, our 700 plus employees, direct employees, plus all of the longshoremen and the ILA members and others that work in and around the port. During COVID, we are essential. So the port it has been open in our container terminals, and our terminals have been open, as have been the other 200 ports or 200 terminals at the port. The port is essential, and it's really key to making sure that our employees are safe and that the people that are working on the port are safe. We had 1 day of closure through the pandemic, and it was early on, so we had to sort of develop our own protocols. And I'm really proud of our senior management team at the port. I'm really proud of our first, we call them our frontline employees, which are ones that come to work every single day. We have protocols keeping those folks safe and making sure that they have a safe and reasonable work environment. The other part of the equation, we do have people working remotely, our administrative folks, and I will tell you that without the administrative folks working remotely, we wouldn't be getting paychecks to our folks. We wouldn't be getting, having the commerce that happens at the port working as well as it could or should. And so I want to give a shout out to those folks. I know lots of people think if you work from home, it's a cushy thing, but I guarantee you it's not. And it's important to make sure we understand that everybody on our team is really doing a great job of providing the essential services and essential products. I kind of like the second bullet here where it talks about food, toilet paper, medical supplies across our docks. And we're talking about 2 million tons of those types of products are coming into Houston through our container terminals. So it's really important to recognize those folks that are actually making this happen so that everybody in Houston has the right kind of products that they need during this pandemic timeframe. I also like to shout out to our police and our fire folks that are frontline workers and doing a great job making sure that we're safe, that the port is safe, and they're doing a great job as well. When you think about sort of the numbers on COVID, our containers are down 3% year to date. But if you took that 3% out, we're still setting records relative to the prior years. The growth has been so big, 3% is hardly anything to kind of worry about, I don't think. And then total tonnage, about 5% down year to date. But we've started to see fewer blank sailings. We've started to see extra loaders coming in as well, bringing products in. And so we think that we're starting to see a turn where I think that the COVID environment is going to start to improve, especially when you start seeing the numbers coming down in Houston. I think the last number I saw was 7-day averages were down 24%, and we just need to stay vigilant in our operations and with our teams to make sure that we in fact don't backslide. We do fundamentally believe that the idea of masking and social distancing and good hygiene is one of the most absolute critical things that we have to do as a port and as a community overall. When you look at some of the broader numbers, and I'm sure that Jim Teague and others have given you some of these numbers, but overall port tonnage, and this includes all of the port, not just the Port of Houston terminals, is down 5.5%. Liquid bulks down 5% year to date. Crude exports down 26%, and you sort of can understand that given the massive drop off of demand for crude during the COVID crisis. We think fundamentally long term that crude exports are going to continue to go up over a period of time. We can't refine this crude that we have, and ultimately it has to go out into the marketplace. And I think that we will be back, in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of the levels that we were at before that, once we get out of the COVID situation. When you think, I'd like to kind of end the discussion with talking about the expanding of the channel, because I think it's really important to understand that even though we're in a COVID environment and our business is down a little bit, we cannot focus on sort of the current moment. We have to focus on the future, and the future is very bright for Houston. It's very bright for the energy business, I believe, and I think it's very bright for Port Houston. We have to continue to make investments in the channel to make sure that we have the capacity to move products in and out efficiently. Vessel sizes continue to grow, and the pressure that shippers have on being efficient is not stopping. We're going to continue to see growth in vessel size, and that leads to more congestion and less ability to get products in and out of Houston. We have a $1 billion sort of price tag on the deepening and widening. We call this Project 11 because it's been deepened and widened 11 times since 1914 when it opened. We are continuing to work on a private-public partnership to fund the deepening and widening. The goal is to widen the channel from 530 feet to 700 feet. And I'll show you a little detail of that slide here in a second, and get that done by 2024. Now, in a normal federal process where we were relying on the federal government to fund all of this, the federal government generally funds 65%, the local sponsors fund 35%. And under that scenario, we would have a wider channel probably sometime in 2030 or 2032, 33. So it would take that long if we went through the sort of business as usual program. We can't go through the business as usual program given the demand that we have of our industries and demand for the channel. So that's why we have to have a public-private partnership and do it sort of the Houston way. One of the most important parts of this equation is wider is more efficient and safer. This shot you see on the screen here is the moment of truth in the Texas chicken maneuver. Our Houston pilots have created this maneuver and executed multiple times every single day. And if you aren't familiar with the maneuver, the ships start out directly at each other, so sort of the Texas chicken, kind of they play chicken with each other, if you will, and then they veer off and use the pressure of the water and the hydraulics going on with the ship to sort of push away from each other as they pass. And the larger and the wider the ships are, the more difficult the Texas chicken is. And so the widening of the channel allows larger ships to move more efficiently and safer through the Texas chicken maneuver. I think it's one of those the more interesting pieces of the pilot's equation is this Texas chicken move, and we need to make sure we can do it with larger ships in the future. Otherwise, one-way traffic would decimate the products moving in and out. We need to have it more efficient, wider, and safer. So when you look at the channel itself, you can see this slide here. We have 1A, B, C, and through 6. The 1A, B, and C is what we call the Bay Reach part of the project, and that's where mostly it'll go from 530 feet to 700 feet, and that's where the Texas chicken is performed. So that's why those are probably the huge big priority for increasing the efficiency and speed through the channel. And then the ones that are upstream from the Bay Reach part of the channel are important changes as well, which will improve ingress, egress, and some of the docks going up for the other users. When I think about this in the channel, I think about some serious environmental issues. The actual Project 11 improves the environment in many ways. First, we will build additional bird islands with the dredge material from Project 11. So we'll have additional marshes that we'll be building, oyster reefs that will be moved and completed. We'll add bird islands, oyster reefs, and I think 800 acres of marshland, which will help filter stormwater when it comes into the channel. So you end up with a really amazing environmental improvement as a result of the deepening and widening. And then the most interesting one, I think, is the air quality, because when you think about it like a freeway that's congested and and the cars are going at 10 or 15 miles an hour. What happens is that becomes a smokestack, and all those idling engines or not going at full capacity create air pollution. And what this should do is should improve our air quality in the channel, because these ships will be able to go through a lot more efficiently, and they won't be waiting in line trying to get out or trying to get in. And I think that's one of the real benefits for the Project 11. So it's not just about commerce; it's about improving the environment and improving the ability of people to enjoy the bay. And to me, that's you have to, in business, I think we have to be really focused on business side of the equation. Yeah, there's a lot of P&Ls involved and a lot of money that moves around, but we also have to make sure that we're focused on quality of life, and we're focused on the environment, and we're focused on our social responsibility to the region. And I'm sort of going to end on this social responsibility issue and then open it up for questions here in a minute, because I think that Port Houston and the port community has a responsibility for social equity. There's been a lot of discussion about social equity and social inequality and racial equity and racial inequality. And when you think about the jobs we produce and the amount of capital that goes in and out of the port, we have a responsibility to step up and say, look, we are part of the community. It's not just about business, it's about jobs and quality of life. And we have to be on the front side of that issue, of those issues, than on the back side waiting to see what happens. And so I think as a community, we have a platform at the port with all of the 200 other terminals that are in and out of the port to step up and say, look, we are going to be part of this the solution to social inequity and racial inequity and economic inequity, and we need to be part of that solution, not the problem. I'm really excited about some of the things that we've done at Port Houston in that regard, and I'm really excited also about some of the discussions that we've had with the other major players in the terminals in and around the port on some of these issues. So it's not just about money, it is about business and jobs, but it's also about how do we protect the environment, how do we improve the social fabric of our community, and how do we create jobs for people that really need those jobs. And so with that, I appreciate the opportunity. And I guess I have one more slide before I get off of this. We are right on schedule for the deepen and widening. The project has been passed by the Senate and the House, and it's waiting for a reconciliation bill. I think it's going to be passed by the end of the year and approved. So we're hoping that gets done and we can get under construction with the deepen and widening in 2021. So with that said, Chad, I think we're ready for a Q&A session if you want to do that.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Great information as always. I mean, it shows the complete scope of what's happening along the Houston Ship Channel. And it wouldn't happen without the Port Authority and the leadership that you guys provide. Let's jump right in the weeds from that last slide. Okay, so one of the questions is, for many years, we've had the concern of Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund, of dredging annually, right? So have we made progress over that? Where are we kind of on getting our fair share of funding back, out of Washington, D.C. to continually sweep out and maintain the proper depth of the Houston Ship Channel? Give us an update there.
Sure. So that's definitely always been a problem, and the challenge with it is that I think the number is that there's maybe several $1 billion in this trust fund, and you're going, well, yeah, but why can't we get our money back, right? We pay in, we being the shippers, pay in about a little over 100 million, sometimes 120 million, depending on where we are, and on average we've been getting back 30 to 40, $50 million, right? So we're not getting the amount of fees that we're charging or that are being charged to importers on that. So the good news for us is that because of Project 11, we have had an increase in allocation from those funds. So this year we got 75 million instead of 35 million. And part of it is the Corps really made the case, and we really appreciate the Corps of Engineers pressing this issue with Congress and with the Office of Budget and Management to get more money, because what we're doing, the 75 million that we got this year for dredging is sort of prepping for doing some residual, remedial work that should have been done in the past, prepping for Project 11. So, the debate politically is a big one. The chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Chairman DeFazio, has been a big advocate of trying to get that trust fund allocated to back to the ports, but it is a big political issue, and unfortunately, they use that excess funds that's sitting in that account to fund other stuff. And when you have money in Congress that they can use for other things, it's hard to get it back. So I think they've done some really good. There is in the transportation infrastructure in the WRDA bill, there's language in that about being more responsible of sending that money back to maintain channels. The other sort of issue you have out there is that and this is, I don't think people think about this very much, but you have channels that need a lot of dredging, channels that don't need a lot of dredging, right? And so like I'll give you an example at Long Beach, LA. They don't have a 52-mile road going to their terminals, and so there's this sort of debate about, well, if they're charged this Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund and don't need dredging, then can't they use it on shore? Can't they use it to expand their facility? And so there's this, they're trying to get the legislation to go that way. We're trying to get it to, we need dredging, in our 52-mile channel. So the political aspects of it are pretty tough, but I think Chairman DeFazio is as close to getting more funds for dredging than he has ever been.
Yeah, excellent. Well, 75 million this year is that's a good start. Let's see if we can keep that trend moving forward in the future.
Sure.
Let's stay on maintenance dredging. And yeah, we've got the Q&A slide up there, so the audience can type in some more questions, and we'll try and hit those. But let's stay on maintenance. But again, kind of down in the weeds, talking about Project 11 and the section of Project 11, which is the LPP, or the local preferred plan, and the maintenance budget for that section of the widening project. Do we have work yet to do there to kind of get an agreement with the Corps to maintain that good section of the channel after the project is complete?
Sure. So, and that is a huge point, right? Because the Corps, the model that the Corps uses, basically had the channel widening going 700 feet from 530 to 700 feet for part of the Bay Reach, and then it went back to 530. So it would be like, you know, having a freeway go down to 2 lanes, right? So it doesn't.
Yeah.
We felt that didn't make sense, and the model is just sort of an old model that the government uses to sort of rate things, and the LPP means that we have to pay for it and maintain it. And the maintenance cost is a pretty huge number when you think about it long term. You know, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of maintenance costs, and generally on the LPP, the local entities have to maintain it. We have had lots of conversations with the Corps. We've had conversations with OMB. We've had conversations with transportation infrastructure and the Senate side. I think we have a pretty good coalition of folks that are working on this issue and the idea is, well, if we're going to pay for the $1 billion, we being the industry and the port, then the federal government ought to pay for the maintenance. And we have, we made some progress on that, but until the ink dries on the bill and everybody signs up for everything that you need to get signed up, it's still in play. And so I think we're in a good shape of getting the maintenance paid for by the federal government, but we're not done yet, just like we're not done with getting Project 11 actually approved.
Excellent. Yeah, it would be unfortunate to see a nice increase in that harbor maintenance trust fund money come back to us for maintenance, and then have to come out of pocket to handle the new expansion. Robbing Peter to pay Paul there. So,
welcome.
All right. So, yeah, exactly. So I want you to touch a little bit on some of the capital improvement projects that are going on at your facilities. And this one, I'll tee this one up for you real quick, because we've had a great kind of working committee with the port and all of the people along Port Road. Port Road is being expanded, as we speak, which again kind of speaks to that amount of trucks that go in there every single day. I think 6,000 to 8,000 trucks, I think was the number that I heard you mention. I know I've heard Bruce Mann talk about those numbers all the time. Talk to us a little bit about some of that capital improvement projects that's Port Road related, and then anything else you wanted to point out, kind of with some of the facilities, docks and things.
Sure. So the port has a long-term capital plan, and our long-term capital plan is focused on a lot of different pieces. Transportation is one of them, and the truck aspects of getting trucks in and out more efficiently, and making sure that the road facilities are in good shape. We partnered with all the municipalities in the state of Texas to improve Port Road and other roads out there. And our capital budget annually is nearly $200 million a year. And so I think one of the challenges that governments have, and the port is a quasi-government entity, obviously, is they don't have funds to fund their capital improvements. So what happens is you have crumbling infrastructure, and you have things that ought to be fixed that can't be fixed because they don't have the funds to do it. The good news about the port is the port does have the funds. We do have a long-term plan that shows major investments being made, not only in our own facilities, the docks and the wharves, to make them more efficient and allow them to have more capacity to bring more TEUs in and more break bulk products in, but that also includes transportation of how do you get the product out of, from the container or from the other dock onto a truck and out. And then how does that, where does that infrastructure go long term? And then how does that infrastructure affect the local communities, right? Because if you have 9,000, I think we hit a peak here just recently of over 9,000 trucks in a day. Well, they're coming in and going out, and that's impacting the roadway, it's impacting the communities, it's impacting the air quality and all that stuff. And so I think we have to, the good news is Port Houston is well capitalized and has no debt and is able to make those kind of investments and partner with the transportation entities to, help improve those roadways.
No, I think so. The Port of Houston has done a fantastic job of basically having the capital available to make those improvements to keep them competitive, whether it's widening the 2 container cuts, 4, 5, 6 years ago in preparation for Panama Canal, bigger ships, things like that, whether it's working with TxDOT on a port road widening, whether it's bringing in new cranes, to handle the cargo that comes in. The port's done a fantastic job of kind of staying ahead of the curve with their ability to fund those capital projects. So with that, I had one other question. I was going to ask you a little bit to peek into 2021 state legislative session, but we have run out of our time, so I'm going to spare you with that one. But I do want to say thank you again so much, not only for being on the show today, on the conference, but for the port's support of what we really try and do here at the Economic Alliance, is being the glue in the region to really help move these type of issues and projects forward. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your support of the conference today. Just keep up the good work, and hopefully we'll get to be back together soon and working on projects, kind of right next to each other instead of via virtual. Okay.
Yeah, I agree totally. And you guys do a great job. The Economic Alliance is awesome. And we appreciate you putting the forum together today and giving us the platform to sort of tell our story a little bit. Thank you.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you so much, Rick. We'll let you hop off now, and we'll move on down the road.